everybody, and welcome to Gene's Reviews. Reviews from a regular dude, where I do movie reviews, trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, and I review YouTube channels. And I do whatever the hell I want. Today I'm doing something really different. Today I've decided, back when my dad was still with us, he really loved cowboy poetry. And one of his favorites was a guy named Waddy Mitchell. And I'm going to narrate 3 cowboy poems, 3 of some really good ones that I really like. One's called Hard Times. One is called The Bra. It's a funny one. And then there's another one called Shorty. And these are 3 of my favorite cowboy poems. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do more stuff like this. I like doing it. I like narrating things and trying different voices and things like that. So, enjoy. I hope. Hard Times by Jim Fish. When hard times come, they sit a spell, like kinfolk come to stay. A packin' troubles, pets and kids that always get in your way. It's drought and flood and drought. There ain't much in between. You work like hell to make 'em good, but they still get sorta lean. The ranch went under late last year. The drought got mighty tough. The boss held out a long, long time, but finally said enough. So here I am, dispatching cops and watching felons sleep. Injunction at the county jail, a job I'll probably keep. The wife, she works at Leisure Lodge, where older people stay. I'm making beds and mopping floors to earn some extra pay. Though extra pay's the term I used, it goes to paying rent, and after all the bills are paid, we wonder where it went. We hawked my saddle, guns and chaps, and then our wedding rings. Then when we couldn't pay the loan, they sold the dad-blamed things. We felt real bad a day or two, but then we let it go, 'cause it got Christmas for the kids when money got real slow. When hard times come, they sit a spell. Don't matter who you are, they'll cost you things you've set aside and clean your cookie jar. You'll lose some sleep and worry some. Won't pay to moan and groan, but hang on to your happiness. They'll finally leave you alone. Here's another one of my favorite cowboy poems. It's a humorous one. It was originally written by Bill Hershey, but it was recorded by Waddy Mitchell and made famous by Waddy Mitchell. So I'm going to give it a try. It's entitled The Bra. I've never been much for shopping. In fact, I try to stay away from town. Except when shipping time comes, I ain't too easily found. But the day come when I had to go, so I left the kids with Ma. But before I left, she asked me, "Would you pick me up a bra?" Well, without a thinking, I said sure. How tough could that job be? I bent down and kissed her and said, "I'll be back by 3. But when I'd done the things I needed to, I started to regret ever offering to buy that thing. I was working up a sweat. I crossed the street to the ladies' shop with my hat pulled over my eyes. I wasn't taking any chances, see, I didn't want to get recognized. Well, I walked up to that sales clerk. I didn't hem nor haw. Told the lady straight out, "Ma'am, I'm here to buy a bra." From behind I heard some snickers, so I turned around to see at least 15 women in that store, all gawking right at me. "What kind would you be looking for?" Well, I just scratched my head. I'd only seen one kind before, thought bras was bras, I said. She gave me a disgusted look, said, "Sir, that's where you are wrong." "Come with me," I heard her say, and like a dog I tagged along. She took me down this alley where them bras was on display. I thought my jaw would hit the floor when I seen that lingerie. They had all these different styles and shapes like I'd not seen before. I figured I'd go crazy before I left that women's store. They had bras you'd wear for 18 hours, bras that cross your heart, bras that lift and separate, and that was just the start. Heck, they had bras that make you feel like you weren't wearing one at all, and bras that you could train in when you start off, when you're small. Well, finally I made my mind up. I picked the black and lacy one. I told the lady just to bag it up and figured I was done. But then she asked me for the size. I didn't hesitate. I knew them measurements by heart. I said 6 7/8. "Well, surely that's not right." "Well, yes, ma'am, I'm positive I measured them last night." I thought she'd go in shock. Must have took her by surprise when I told her that my wife's bust was the same as my hat size. You see, that's what I used to measure with. I figured it was fair, but if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, ma'am. That just drew another stare. Well, by now a crowd had gathered. They was all a-cracking up when the lady asked to see my hat so she could measure for the cup. When I finally had it figured, I gave the gal her pay. I turned to leave the store, tipped my hat, and said, "G'day." My wife had heard the whole story before I even made it home. You see, she'd talked to 15 women who called her on the phone. She was still laughing, but by then I didn't care, 'cause now she don't ask and I don't shop for no more women's wear. Shorty. When I first met up with Shorty, I was 16 and abrupt. I'd been raised round cows and horses, thought I knew which way was up. I'd landed a job on the 7S, hired on to Buckaroo. I was to pull out with the wagon, and this Shorty was on the crew. He was old already, thin, little, and unassuming, and the fan that flamed his passion for this cowboy life was all-consuming. I can't help but remember, as I sit here and reflect, how the man that wore those Blanchard spurs had won the crew's respect. At night sometimes he'd talk about his mother, school, and home, and how at 14 years of age he'd set out on his own. How he'd aimed to be a cowboy and work free for a ranch, mucking stalls and digging post holes till he'd earned himself a chance. How he'd worked in Arizona, popping brush and tying off, spending winters on a camp job where the trails were awful rough. How he'd come out to Nevada where he spent these many years, but he'd speak again of mother, and his eyes would fill with tears, for he'd say, I never made it back to see her before she died, and the regrets he had about that were impossible to hide. I just thought him sentimental, foolish in his way. See, being young, I thought life was an endless wealth of days. He'd talk of wagons and cowboys and ranches he'd worked on, but to me they seemed prehistoric, 'cause now most of them were gone. He'd talk of friends he'd like to see and places that he'd been, and how come fall he'd take some time and visit them again. But something always happened. He'd never really go, except for his yearly junket to the Denver Livestock Show, 'cause life and work tied Shorty down, doing things he thought he should. Just weren't time to get around like he always wished he could. On occasion, he'd get word that someone else had died. He'd say, "Damn, I could have seen him, but I really didn't try." And if that feller's name came up in a story later on, Shorty'd blink a tear and say, "I really should have gone." In the paper yesterday, it hurt me when I read that Shorty Daniels had passed away while sleeping in his bed. I'd heard that Shorty had been sick and wasn't doing well. I figured that I'd take some time and visit him a spell. But I never made it before he died. Damn, I could have seen him, but I really didn't try. Then my memory started wandering back to other pals I'd missed, and it got a little scary as I made a mental list. It made me start to thinking about some things on my back shelf, about friends I haven't seen for years, how history repeats itself, how outfits I've worked at have sold out and are no more. And I'm starting to understand what Shorty choked up for. I suppose it's in the scheme of things, and we all have our regrets. I reckon it's just one more thing that living life begets. But I'll bet when Shorty's name comes up in a story later on, I'll pause and blink a tear and say, "I really should have gone." Well, thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And I will see you next